What's happening, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Rip the Net. Thank you once again for joining us. Uh, Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video and just any clips that we continue to post throughout the week. As Dre has mentioned in the past, we are posting nearly daily, and we just want to hear your thoughts. So, if you enjoy the conversations we have on here, definitely let us know your thoughts in the comments. But how are you doing, Dre?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Excited for the topics today. Some fun stuff. Looking forward. In terms of soccer, we do not have a dedicated soccer topic today, just to give the listeners a heads up. But in the Premier League, Chelsea scraped a draw today against a relegation side in Ipswich. So, not promising, but at least it wasn't a loss. We were down 2-0 and we brought it back. So we'll take that. But other than that, basketball we're about to get into. My team is in the playoffs, not in the play-in, so we take those, honestly.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And I know we talked last week about Kevin De Bruyne, and he had himself a weekend as well, which I thought was interesting. First time since he made the announcement, he did show out and have himself a good game. So it's cool. It's cool, man. And then this week, we've already touched upon our thoughts on the upcoming second legs. So very excited. We'll be covering those in next week's episode. But yeah, looks like things are just moving along. It's an exciting time in sports for sure. But cool, man. First order of business, first topic of the day. The NBA playoffs are right around the corner, and we have the play-in tournament coming up this week, April 15th through 18th. And just to name out the matchups, in the Western Conference, we will have the Sacramento Kings facing the Dallas Mavericks, the Golden State Warriors facing the Grizzlies. Over in the Eastern Conference, we have the Chicago Bulls facing the Miami Heat, and then the Magic facing the Atlanta Hawks. So interesting matchups coming up, but let's start in the Western Conference. So let's start with the 9-10 seed, or 9 seed versus 10 seed game, the Kings and the Mavericks. Do you have any predictions, Dre, on how this will go?
Well, before I even get into my prediction for this game, I do want to bring this up, and we won't drag it on for too long. I know we got to get into predictions. But in terms of the play-in as a concept, which I haven't minded in the past, but I feel like if you look at the record of the Kings and the Mavericks, and then compare it to the Warriors and Grizzlies, and then obviously even Clippers, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Lakers, who were like right there as well, within 2 games of each other, I feel like this year, seeing the Kings at 40 wins and the Mavericks at 39 wins, it feels wrong that these teams even have a chance of making the playoffs. Like, below 500, this is embarrassing, honestly. It's like you see one of these teams, of course you can make the argument, okay, then of course the Warriors and Grizzlies should just handle business and get in. But I don't know. I feel like them getting in kind of makes the regular season feel a little less important. And then, of course, people are going to say that it stops them from trying to tank. But, I don't know. I feel like I'd be disappointed to see the Thunder go against either of those teams as below 500 teams. What do you think about that first before we get into the prediction real quick?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, yeah, both the Warriors and Grizzlies are at 48 and 34. So they're each 14 games above 500. So they have both had solid seasons, no matter how you cut it. They have played a solid season. Then you compare it over to the Eastern Conference. We're going to get to the matchups later, but the Pistons are the 6th seed, and they have a worse record than the 7 and 8 seed in the West. So it just shows how competitive West can be, and sometimes just how different the talent spread can be. The Bucks have the exact same record as both of those teams, as the Warriors and the Grizzlies, and they are in the 5 seed, so they are comfortable, and they're in a good spot. So I completely hear you on that. I understand why that can seem like a little bit of a hassle. Neither the Warriors or Grizzlies can lose 2 games in a row, which is interesting. Like, can't drop 2 straight games or your season's over. So that is a little bit insane. Like you said, I do expect both teams to handle business, but when you look at the talent spread on teams like the Mavericks and the Kings, I think it's like they have a shot. They have a shot to make it in. So I can see the concern on that. I've always been a fan of the in-season tournament. I think it brings in just a little bit more excitement. In the past, we've seen LeBron and Steph in the play-in, so I think it's brought us great moments in the past. But definitely hear you. It is interesting to see that this year there is a huge gap in between both playing games in the Western Conference. Not necessarily in the Eastern Conference, but we'll get to that in a bit. But I hear you for sure.
Yeah, and I think even for the West, if we saw something like, I agree. I think in general, the play-in can bring something different. That was at least something fresh from the usual standard. But I think maybe in the future, Adam Silver could look at making it flexible. Whereas, like, even if it's not like necessarily do these playing games with the 4 teams that are eligible for these 2 spots. If we see, okay, Warriors, Grizzlies have identical records, or okay, maybe it won't work with like the 5, 4, and 3 because there's 3 teams. But say we just stick to Warriors and Grizzlies who have identical records. Maybe just those 2 teams battle it out. Winner gets the 7th seed. Loser gets the 8th seed, just for something, and that gives a little more. That would have playoff atmosphere. I know they're looking for extra games that have playoff atmosphere. Even Clippers Warriors today had playoff atmosphere, so I think even something like that, just one extra game where it's like, okay, these 2 teams battle it out for the 7th seed, loser gets the 8th seed, then we go into the playoffs. I think even that could be exciting. But as for I know we were here to talk about Kings Mavericks. This one, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Either of these teams, I'm going to go with the Kings just because I feel like the Mavericks aren't full strength. And, I'm sure they're still going to compete. They still have AD, who's still going to be the best player on either team. But, I don't know. I feel like the Kings just have enough with DeRozan to get over them and enough depth to get through them.
Yeah. I've also got the Kings in that matchup. I think Levine and DeRozan, they'll get the job done. I also don't expect the Mavericks to make a run, but AD's been pretty adamant about getting back on the court, so I do respect that. Really unfortunate because obviously we've talked about it, but that blockbuster trade in acquiring AD, the Mavericks were really making an effort to make a push for a chip this season, and to see that Kyrie went down and they've been hit with plenty of other injuries since then. It's kind of unfortunate, and I think this will only add pressure to the Mavericks front office. And I think there's going to be lots of questions raised this offseason. I know hasn't even been a full season with this new roster, but there will be questions, there will be feelings. So I think I have the Kings moving on in that matchup. As far as the Warriors and Grizzlies, who do you have taking that series or taking that game?
I have the Warriors actually. This one, I mean, I guess you could say with all these playing games, they're meant to be real toss-ups, but I feel like just the experience alone, obviously with Steph, Dre, just the coaching staff, whatever, on the Warriors haven't been there time and time again. But even the addition to Jimmy, who has been there on his own with the Heat, that's disrespectful to the rest of the Heat. But carrying that team at times, I think having players of that level, they're going to make a difference in a situation like this specifically. Whether or not they can win a whole series, that's something else. But I think in a one-off game, I could see that happening. So I'm going to go with the Warriors on this one.
Absolutely. I also have the Warriors. They picked it up at just the right time. They got off to a little bit of a slow start, and they hit the trade deadline, made a move, got Jimmy, started clicking. And I see that team is determined. There was a clip that went viral of Draymond saying that the Warriors will win the chip. So those are fighting words. So I expect them to at least win this game. That Rockets Warriors matchup, that's a scary. If you're the Rockets, you do not want to see the Warriors. So, I think that will set up a very interesting 2 to 7 seed or 2 seed versus 7 seed matchup in the first round. So I also have the Warriors. So with that being said, we both have Grizzlies versus Kings duking it out for the 8 seed. So who do you have there?
I'm going to go with the Grizzlies, even though I do think it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Kings, just like you said, off the strength of those 2 stars to take them through. But just out of respect for the record and the season they've had and Ja, I think Ja's going to have a point to prove. Like, obviously, they still have JJJ and a couple other guys, but I feel like Ja specifically, especially given what's happened in the last few weeks, and we've talked about it too with the whole fine and stuff, I feel like he's going to be on a mission. And I think going out here, he knows as much as we know how bad that would look, considering everything that's happened in the last couple weeks. So I can't see Ja letting them lose that game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the Kings, we've seen, the thing that's confusing about the Kings is that they have a talented roster. I don't want to deny that. However, we've seen the Levine-DeRozan duo play out in Chicago, and we've seen it fail. So to begin with, I'm just not a fan of that roster makeup. I don't understand. Maybe the Kings are just trying to stay competitive in making those moves, but it just doesn't hold much of a promise to me. So I also have the Grizzlies advancing to face the Thunder. But cool, man. We have the Western Conference first round set up. Now let's shift over into the Eastern Conference play-in. So the first matchup, we have the Chicago Bulls versus the Miami Heat. So who do you have in that matchup?
This one's interesting because the records aren't great. Honestly, the teams aren't great. I'm not really that excited to see either of these teams actually make the playoffs, personally. I don't know. This one's honestly a toss-up for me. I'm going to go with the Heat just for, maybe a little minor upset. I think losing Jimmy this year, they're never really bound to do much, but I do have faith in Eric Spoelstra as a coach to see them through a game like this. Whether or not they go beyond that is a different story, but sometimes in a situation like this, you have to bet on the better coach. But, I'm not that excited for this game, honestly.
That's a really good point. I also have the Heat advancing. I just, Tyler Hero and Bam, it's hard to count them out. So we've seen both of these teams get hit with some roster moves this year. So I think that's partially to blame when it comes to their disappointing records. But I think their records are an honest look into what they're going to look like over the next few years, unless they make some kind of move and acquire somebody, right? I know the Heat has been in trade rumors regarding Kevin Durant. I know they've just been named a lot, even with Zion Williamson. So I think these two teams are just in a place where if they don't make a move anytime soon, this is what their performance will look like. But I too have the Miami Heat advancing. I believe in Tyler. I believe in Bam. Cool. This next matchup, I will also say we have the Magic and the Hawks facing off. Very interesting matchup, I will say. I will say that the Magic had a bit of a disappointing season. I think people were really excited to see how they would bounce back after a very impressive showing last year. And to see them in the play-in, obviously not the worst, but they're at 500, and I think people expected a little bit more. Paolo Banchero did get hit with an injury, so that definitely has a lot to do with it. But just switch it up. I guess I'll do my prediction here. I personally have the Magic winning this matchup and winning and taking that 7 seed. Who do you have?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Hawks on this one. Not because I really believe in them as a team or anything, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like maybe this is maybe the last season I'll say this between these two teams. I feel like Magic really should be in the ascension, hopefully in the future. But sometimes I feel like you got to go with the established stars, especially in a game like this. I kind of said something similar about the Grizzlies and Warriors on the other side in those matchups. But I feel like Trae Young, I don't know, missing the playoffs when you're a player of his level, and I think honestly a player I think people would think is above this level. Like you should be a surefire playoff player, even if you don't necessarily have the best team. I think especially if you're in the East, like we said before, they do not have like the craziest records out there. I would hope you could at least scrape past this team to get into the playoffs, but you know, I wouldn't say I'm the most confident about that one, but I'm gonna go with the Hawks on this one.
That's fair. That's fair. I think Trae Young always seems to pick it up in those high pressure games, so I don't blame you for picking him. I think Paolo Banchero is all around going to be the best player on the floor, so that's why I believe in them so much. And this Magic team, man, it is a little bit disappointing. I did mention Banchero faced injuries, but Jalen Suggs is also out, and that's a really big loss, considering the fact that you have an elite defender who could have been very useful in this matchup to put up against Trae. You won't have him there, so I think that will make for a much more interesting matchup. But I believe in Paolo, but we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I guess now that leaves us with, considering that you picked the Hawks to advance, that would leave the Hawks and the Heat duking it out for the 8th seed. Who do you have winning that matchup? Sorry, no, you would have had the Magic and the Heat. Sorry, you would have had the Magic and the Heat.
Yeah, but I would say let's go with your matchup because I'd say you're more knowledgeable about these level teams.
I'm not getting. You can go ahead. It's cool.
Let's just say the Magic. Let's just say the Magic. Honestly, I don't think either of these teams are getting past the first round, even if they do get in. So it's not too consequential for me. But let's say the Magic.
Cool. Okay, cool. And yes, I mean, if I had to pick between the Hawks and the Heat, which would have been my prediction for that matchup for the 8th seed, I would also go with the Hawks. I think they're just a little bit more complete at the moment. Hard to say because I am again counting against Tyler and Bam, but you know, I think it's going to be hard to pull 2 straight wins out of that roster. So I have the Hawks advancing and taking the 8th seed. Cool. So now on to the first round of the playoffs. I would say, yeah, let's start with the Western Conference. So you have the Thunder facing off against the Grizzlies, which actually is what we both have. So who do you have taking that matchup?
I have, this is tougher than it may seem. I don't know. Like obviously on paper you want to say the Thunder, but I think low key, even if they're not a better team and they don't have the depth that the Thunder do necessarily, I think the Grizzlies are sneaky because we've seen them go on some playoff runs in recent history. And I think like their window, like we talked about this recently when we were talking about the whole Ja situation, their window of like 2-3 years ago when they were on the ascension, they were ahead of schedule compared to the Thunder, who are like in that kind of similar place now, probably with a better record. But I think they got that experience a few years ago. Now, can that experience overcome what is like definitively a better team, like 20 games better? I don't know. So I don't know, but you know what? Let's have some fun. I'm going with the Grizzlies to win this series. I don't know how much I really believe it, but I think that would be a fun matchup. And I'm not as good as the Thunder are. I'm actually not too hot on them personally. So I'm gonna go with the Grizzlies here.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I mean, I will say the Thunder isn't quite at full strength right now. Jalen Williams has been dealing with a hip injury, and he is a major part of their roster. But I will say, man, I believe in the Thunder. I think this is the year where they take that extra step. I really believe in this team. They got really close last year, and I actually expected them to make it further. And I think when you have a soul-crushing defeat the way that they did, I think they're motivated. SGA had an amazing season, and I think he's proved himself as a top player in the league. So, I mean, not that we didn't know that going into this season, but he's been on a different level this season. So I have the Thunder taking this pretty easily. I know we're not actually. Let's do it. So you said the Grizzlies take it. How many games do you think they do it in?
Oh, it'd have to be 7. It would
7.
100% have to be 7. Yeah.
Okay.
I can see if it goes less than 7, it means that the Thunder probably won it. I think it would have to be they scrape a game 7, and then we see a game winner, and then for game 7. Honestly,
Got you. Okay. Cool. I had the Thunder taking this in 6. I was tempted to say 5, but I think what we've mentioned about Ja is very real right now. He's also been in trade rumors, so I think he's really trying to prove a point and make it clear that he belongs on this team. And it's very interesting. This may very well be Ja's last season in a Memphis Grizzlies uniform, which I think is wild to even say, but that is a possibility. That is a rumor that has been floating around, but I think he puts up a good fight, but the Thunder advance in 6. Cool. Now on to the Rockets series against the Warriors. This is a very interesting matchup. You have a high-seeded, young, exciting team going up against an experienced team in the Warriors that is just now clicking at the right time. So who do you have taking that?
I'm going Warriors, and maybe I'm leaning too heavily on experience in a couple of these matchups, but I think because the records aren't crazy different. Like obviously the Thunder are clearly second seed compared to a lot of these teams with similar records below them, but really like a 4-game difference isn't that crazy. And we're talking about the Warriors now, who, like you said, are clicking at the right time. Now they have Jimmy. It was earlier in the season. Well, one, they probably don't even reach this point, but then that's a completely different look. I think now having, like I said, the reason why I think they get past the Grizzlies is these key players who have tons of experience at this point versus like a Rockets team where they're like a surprise package of the season. And maybe we see them, if they take out the Warriors, honestly, that maybe propels them even further than I thought they would go in the playoffs this year. But I can't see them taking out the Warriors if it comes down to like I said, if it comes down to a game 7 scenario. That's where you really want that experience for me anyway. So maybe next year, the year after, we're seeing them start to peak. But right now, especially on their way out, some of these Warriors players, I think they're going to be hungry for something more before they, hit those twilight years of the career. So I'm going Warriors.
100%. I'm with you. I think the playoffs are naturally a time period in which the new stars are born. This is where stars are born. This is where the players show out. This is where we get introduced to the new big names. Obviously, they've had an entire season and they've played it well, but no one's going to remember a good season from a team unless they make some noise in the playoffs. So I'm with you there. I think they have yet to really, if I'm being honest, gain the respect of at least the casual fan, which I think is fine. Like, that's not a dig on them. I think that's just every team naturally has to go through that. The Timberwolves, I think, went through that recently when they had that run, and I actually thought they were going to make it to the finals last year before getting bounced by the Mavericks, but they really did have that excitement. They really did have that energy. But with that being said, like I said, I don't think the Rockets have just gain my respect just yet. And like I said, man, the Warriors, it's scary when a team is clicking in the throughout the end of the season. If the second half of the season hits and a team just finds their rhythm, that is very scary. It kind of reminds me of when the Heat made that run. They had a very disappointing season, got the 8th seed, and then eventually made it to the NBA Finals. So the Warriors are going to be a very tough matchup. I think that 7 seed can be a little bit misleading to the casual fan. So I too have the Warriors advancing. And, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jalen Green and Sengun prove me wrong. But I think right now I have to roll with Steph, have to roll with the crew. How many games do you have the Warriors taking it in?
I also think 6 games for the Warriors. I don't think it's going to be like smooth sailing just because the Rockets have proved themselves to be a solid team. But I think they can get it done pretty relatively comfortably in 6 games, I'll say.
Yeah, fair. I'm going to say, man, Warriors in 5. And again, might be disrespect, but listen, you have these teams. I know we're saying a 2 versus 7 seed, but the Rockets only have 4 more wins than the Warriors this season, and that's not considering the fact that the Warriors had an amazing second half. So, it sounds a little bit weird, but I'm gonna roll with the Warriors. Next matchup, Nuggets Clippers. Very interesting. The Nuggets, Clippers, and Lakers all had the same record. Finished the season 50-32. So we have a very, very even matchup here. And I know you yourself are a Clipper fan. So let me hear, what are your thoughts?
Brother. I'm not optimistic. I'm not going to lie. Although I don't think it's impossible that we get this done. For me as a fan, I'd like to go in with low expectations. And maybe if I was a fan of a different team, that'd be different. Like, I think Lakers fans like to go in with high expectations all the time. But for the Clippers, knowing the amount of disappointment we've been met with in, I was going to say recent years, but we're talking like a decade at this point. I'm not going to think we're going to overtake the Nuggets. Even if we're not going to say, oh, this is the championship Nuggets team. It's pretty damn close, and we're still looking at Nikola Jokic, who's playing out of his mind. I know we might be looking at a Shea MVP, but personally, I'd probably give it to Nikola Jokic. To me, he's cementing himself as an all-time center, and I think that right there is enough to be the difference maker. Obviously, they also still have amazing players, Jamal Murray, Porter Jr., even a Westbrook, who's, obviously he's not the Westbrook we know from when we were like growing up watching him, but still a nice piece. Aaron Gordon, just great pieces. And I think knowing his durability, that's something I can't guarantee for my team. I can't tell you that we're gonna play, even if this goes 6 games. I can't guarantee you we're gonna have our best lineup for 6 games. Obviously, no team can guarantee you that, but there's a high chance that we're not going to be having our best player for 6 games, 5, 6, 7 games, in Kawhi Leonard. So, with that alone, as much as I've been impressed by James Harden this season, it's been a bit of a renaissance for his career. Even if it's not like the 35 a game or however much he was scoring back at the Rockets, I think he's really proven to start to age well with this game this year. And I really like Zubac. I've always liked Zubac. I think Zubac is one of the more underrated big men in the game. Norman Powell's had a great year, but I just don't see it happening. And if it does happen, I'll be very pleasantly surprised. But I like to, aim low.
So that's the Nuggets you got?
Nuggets for sure.
Okay, cool.
Nuggets in 6.
Nuggets in 6. Okay. Cool. Interesting. This is hard for me, man, because I think the Clippers have really put up a good season, and they too are clicking at the right moment. So I think actually have momentum on their side right now. And it's interesting to say because on paper, I 100% agree with you. I think the Nuggets are a more talented roster, but they've just been met with so much turmoil as of late. You fire your coach, you fire your GM. It's not looking good right now, and especially now with the playoffs about to begin, it's not the time where you want to have your team just out of sync. So this is tough, but and as much as hard as it is for me to make this pick, I'm gonna roll with the Clippers. I would love to see Kawhi and Harden really have a good playoff run together. I've always believed in Kawhi. I think he's been hit with just a lot of negative press, and obviously it does come with, I don't know if good reason is the right way to say it, but I think he's earned himself a little bit um of an underwhelming narrative ever since that Toronto chip. But I think this team has the pieces, and they've been a little bit of a sleeper this season. But I think you have a team with momentum facing a very talented team that is kind of a little bit out of whack right now. So I'm gonna say Clippers take this in 7.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I'm glad you say it. I'm not going to say it. I don't want to jinx my team, but I think Kawhi, I think especially that you say it, and I 100%, I've always believed in Kawhi. Even when he was on the Spurs, on the Raptors, I always liked him. And obviously when he ended up coming to the Clippers, then I was like, oh my God, like I was able to glaze even more. And I think there's even a point in time where I was making the argument that he was the best player in the league. And I know that might have been blasphemous for some, but I think he really is on that level in terms of a two-way player. The ability is always there, but as much as you can believe in his ability, I can't believe in his availability, which is unfortunate. So I'm hoping we're looking at a healthy playoffs. I feel like the Clippers always, like you say, they always start clicking around this time, and you're like, oh, Kawhi's back. We're looking at a little run maybe, and then something happens. It literally, it's just like clockwork. Obviously, I hope that doesn't happen this year, but I would not be surprised, and I'm done being disappointed at this point.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man, and I think that those feelings come with good reason. It's tough. It's tough because Kawhi is literally like in my head was just like, I don't know. I also put him in such high regard after that chip, and he's just like a quiet superstar who kind of just minds his own business. He's one of the best two-way wings I think we've ever seen, at least in our lifetime. So this is an NBA Hall of Famer, no matter how you slice it, right?
100%.
He's not going to be brought up in those conversations because, as far as just like, let's say there's a conversation about the greats from our generation. I think his name might get omitted. His name might be one of those forgotten ones, but this man has really proved his ability to perform. And I think if you put Kawhi on the Joker, I think that makes a very uncomfortable series for Jokic. And I'm gonna say, I know the injuries are always a question mark. I think Kawhi has at least 7 healthy games in him, enough for me to go with the Clippers in this matchup. So yeah, I stay on that. I stand on that, and I'm excited. Cool. And finally, the last matchup in the Western Conference, we have the Lakers and the Wolves. Very interesting teams. I think if we were going into the season, we would have actually expected these seeds to have been flipped, but here we are, man. Lakers are a 3 seed, Wolves are a 6 seed. So who do you have taking this series?
Damn. I'm a bona fide hater, I ain't gonna lie. So it's really tough for me to potentially pick the Lakers here. But I'd say, even considering how well they've played since the trade, and obviously getting one of the best players in the league and Luka on their team, I really like Anthony Edwards. Like I really like him as a player. Obviously, I think it's tough going up against Luka and Braun, and obviously still Austin Reeves, who has really blossomed into a really solid player. Like I really didn't see this coming a few years ago. Like I always thought he was solid. I thought maybe he'd be like, Caruso. Everyone was hyped for Caruso for like a year, and then he just kind of out of there. I think whoever is like that guy, random white dude on the Lakers, people just start gassing because the Lakers. But Austin Reeves, I think, has proven himself, and he's really developed his game. So I'm really impressed by him. But even Rui, I like Rui a lot. The Lakers, they're solid, but I'm going Timberwolves. I'm going Timberwolves. And I wouldn't say I'm super confident in this one, but I really like Anthony Edwards. I think him, maybe to my detriment as a fan, him really locking in on becoming a solid 3-point shooter. I personally don't like it because I think what I liked about Edwards was his aggression to the hole. I mean, obviously he still has it there, but he's really stepped up his shooting. 40% pretty much from 3 on the season. Like that's solid. That's really solid. And I think that's like rounding out his game in a way where if he takes that shooting into next season, and then now that he's that kind of threat from the outside, he can mix that in with his aggression to the basket. I think he could be even more dangerous than he is now. And that's saying a lot considering he averaged over 27 a game. So I'm going with the Timberwolves, but this one for me is really a toss-up.
Okay, that's interesting, man, and I think blasphemous. I would say, even as a Knicks fan, like I know we're talking about the Wolves here, but we have Julius Randle, we have DiVincenzo, and I always wish former Knicks the best, but that's wild, man. I mean, this is LeBron and Luka. I can't count that team out. You have LeBron and Luka. I know they're a new team. I know they only have one more win over the Wolves, but I think this is a very what I'm saying is that I just want to see the Lakers and the Warriors duke it out. I want to see Steph.
Okay, so just say that, bro. Just say you are also a part of the ESPN like Lakers propaganda machine, and you want to see LeBron and Steph in another series. Just say it's good for ratings, bro.
Absolutely. I'd be foaming at the mouth to watch that second round matchup. But I think all that aside, I still will roll with the Lakers. And not sure. Did you mention how many games you have the Wolves taking it in?
Oh no, I would say it would have to be 7.
Wolves in 7. Okay. I hate to be that guy because I am not a LeBron fan, but all the Lakers in 5 games. No. Lakers. Yeah. Listen, I'm not even gonna try to make my own attempt, but I too have the Lakers in 5. Has to be Lakers in 5.
That's crazy. That's not crazy to say, but I just like the fact that it ended up being Lakers in 5 is just hilarious. Let me see if I can come up with one for you on the spot. Let's see. Minnesota Timberwolves. What rhymes with Timberwolves? Minnesota Timberwolves. God damn, give me a word that rhymes with Timberwolves, bro. I see why you didn't do this. This is not easy. Minnesota.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So you could have Ant. You may need to pay rent. Maybe giving up Lent. Lakers in
Ant and Rent.
Yeah, I don't know. Rent wasn't the best one, but Lent I was pretty excited about.
Lent, okay. Lent rhymes with rent, but not Ant. I got you. Minnesota, drinking soda, loving cola. That doesn't rhyme either, man. I'm done with this. Either way, Lakers in 5. I hear you.
Yeah, Lakers in 5 indeed. Yeah, cool, man. I'm excited to see what ends up happening, and once the second round rolls around, we'll see where these lie. But the Eastern Conference. So you have the Cavs facing the Magic. Yes, you had the Cavs facing the Magic. So, right? Right? Did you have the Magic beating the Heat?
I have the Magic beating the Heat, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Cavs, Magic, who would you say has that series?
I'm going Cavs. And there's not really much to say here. I think, like we said, the Magic pretty disappointing this season. Even getting into the playoffs with a 500 record, honestly embarrassing for the league. And 64 games is nothing to laugh at. I think even if I don't think they're actually the best team in the East, I think to play that well over the course of a season, I think you guys can get it done against the Magic over the course of a series. So I'm going with the Cavs, and honestly, probably in 5.
100%. Okay, cool. Yeah, I have Cavs, Hawks. I'm right there with you. I'm actually going to say, man, Cavs in 4. This is going to be my, at least as of right now, this is the first sweep I'm calling in this first round. I think the Cavs are very complete. I went to 2 NBA games this season, and I actually got to see the Cavs face the Knicks. And this was early on in the season, before anyone was really eyeing the Cavs, or honestly, before anyone really thought the Cavs would have the season that they are having. So I got to see this team in person, and this is a team where I feel like a lot of different people can get it done. They just have that kind of roster makeup, and they have a pretty complete roster. They have the shooting, they have the scoring, they have the defense, and they have really shown out, and they are the 1 seed. So I think this is a well-deserved 1 seed, and I think they deserve my respect and will sweep the Hawks in 4. But cool. Next matchup, you have the Hawks facing the Celtics.
Yeah. Celtics in 4.
Celtics in 4. Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I don't think much more is needed on that end.
Yeah, honestly, best team in the league, in my opinion. It's not even. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I have Celtics Magic. I'm gonna actually say, man, this is scary. This is weird. Nah, I'm rolling with the Celtics, by the way. I'm just kind of debating how many games they'll take it in. The one thing I'm concerned about is Jaylen Brown. He's injured right now, and he is going to be, if he's not 100% these entire playoffs, I think that sets up a very interesting kind of matchup, or just a very interesting landscape in the Eastern Conference. But I think they have enough to take out the Magic. I'm going to say Celtics in 5.
Fair. And I hate to say it too, obviously being from New York, and I think personally, I think Jaylen Brown's the best player on that team, so him being out is unfortunate. And I also think Jason Tatum is the least charismatic or likable superstar the league has seen in decades. But, the team is good and it's very functional, and that's what you need to win playoff series. So there it is.
Absolutely. I don't know, man. The Tatum hate, I think he's a little corny, but I've seen cornier.
Little.
Have
you?
Yeah, man. LeBron is way listen.
No, LeBron
way cornier than Tatum.
LeBron, don't get me wrong. LeBron is 100% cornball. Like, LeBron, it's actually crazy to be as great as he is and to be like as corny as he is. But Tatum is like LeBron without the entertainment value. Like, LeBron is corny, but like at least LeBron gives us moments that are funny, even if it's unintentional. Like, when LeBron's trying to be funny, no one really cares. But like, the unintentional humor from Bron is the best. And LeBron also gives us so much peripheral content with like the Glazers, the whatever, when you say the something, like all the memeable moments. Like, his cringe leads somewhere. Tatum, it's just cringy, and it's just also not funny. Like, it's sad, honestly. Like, the one memeable moment is like the we did it, whatever it is, or anything is possible, broke man's anything is possible. But even that, like, no one's even laughing with him, bro. Like, he tries to play into it, and no one's laughing along with him. Like, I don't know. To me, he is just number one cornball because it's not even funny.
Yeah. I mean, but I will say, let's say you make a list out of the corny moments. I feel like people only found Tatum corny after that finals win, which is even crazy to say. How do you get cornier after you win a ring? Right?
Not me though. Not me.
Really?
I've been on this Tatum train since back. I won't say names of like our friends, whatever, put them on the blast on the podcast. But even back when we had, like, you know, obviously we went to school in Massachusetts, and we had a lot of Celtics fans that we know personally. And even back then, I was saying Tatum, he's doing these commercials and stuff. I was saying Tatum was corny 4 or 5 years ago. Like, I think now people are starting to catch on because I think people want to hate on the Celtics. But Tatum's always been corny. He just hasn't had the spotlight.
Interesting. Speaking of commercials, man, did you know Tatum shot a Jordan brand commercial at our high school gym?
I did hear about that, and even I'm sure that was corny too.
So if
I sound like a crazy hater, bro.
I was gonna say we had been there, right? Like, say he had shot the commercial while we were students, which is interesting to say because we were in our senior year when it was his rookie year. Like, I distinctly remember us watching.
Really triangulating our position here, but keep going.
Listen, it don't matter, bro. It don't matter. Oh, but I just distinctly remember us watching the Celtics, which kind of poetic, right? Celtics face the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals our senior year, which is honestly what might end up playing out this season. But this is all to say, if Tatum had shot a commercial while we had been active students, you wouldn't have paid a trip over to the gym to take a look, or to ask for an autograph, or to take a picture?
Hell no. Take a picture? Who do you think you're talking to, bro? You think I want to take a picture with someone? Like, come on, bro. I'm not the right one for that, bro. Not even autograph, bro. I do not care. I mean, I would have gone to the gym, like, just to see him and like see if it was a corny commercial or something, but I wouldn't have been asking him for no picture or autograph, bro. Tatum's not the one to me. He's not the one. I've always preferred Jaylen Brown.
Interesting. Incognito. I feel you. 13 episodes in, I still don't know what we look like. You feel me?
They're gonna find out soon. You giving away all the stats, bro.
yo, listen. Nah. That's funny though. Nah, I will say, bro, I hate on the Celtics, but I'm a basketball fan first. I would have been snapping that photo. I still think, mind you, Tatum is corny. I don't hate him, you know, like he's not corny enough for me to be like, oh no, that dude's corny. Like, I don't like
That's
him.
the problem. That's the problem. LeBron hits that perfect threshold where it's like, it's corny and it's super corny, but at least there's something to engage with there. Tatum is just like you literally just said it. Like, you don't even have enough emotion there to really care. It's more like you're a bit like more like apathy when it comes to like the Tatum, bro. Like, I don't know. I think he's one of the worst superstars to happen to the league in a long time. At least Kawhi, like, he's even quieter. Like, he wants to do his own thing, but that itself has provided good moments. Or like the Kawhi laugh and stuff like that. Like, Kawhi's most like funny, and people love him for that. But Tatum is just like, I don't know. If this dude is actually I don't think anyone's ever gonna say it partially because of this, but if he was actually like the best player in the league, that'd be terrible for the league. There's a reason why people love someone like Luka, and why Luka going to the Lakers is amazing for the league, because Tatum on the Lakers, oh my god, bro. Like, the ESPN would be fighting to get something interesting out of that, and you know how much they want to cover the Lakers. This dude's dreadful, but obviously his game is amazing, but you know, that's a different story.
Yeah, nah, for sure. You know what? I've been saying, like, I actually need to come clean right now. I've said that I didn't think Tatum was corny prior to that finals win, but I had completely forgot about the Kobe Bryant saga where
oh my god, yeah,
where he was just like, obviously we saw him pose with that finals trophy and recreate the iconic Kobe image, but we saw after Kobe had passed away that he wanted to take on that Kobe 2.0 persona, which definitely was corny, so I'll give that one to you. I don't want to, I don't want to be oblivious to what we've seen. So I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one too. I completely forgot about that. But listen, as with regards to him being the worst potential superstar, I get it, man. I feel it. But listen, I still think a lot of that hate is unwarranted. I think he's just a kid, man. I think
Bro.
he's I mean, not, you know what I mean? Like he's just
Don't
like
turn
his
into one of
inner.
these dudes who's been saying Tatum's like 22 for the last 10 years, bro. Tatum is 27 years old. He's pushing 30. He's no longer a kid. He has a kid who's a grown man at this point. We've seen all over the league for the last 5 years. He's not a kid anymore. He's literally not a kid. I'm not letting you defend this guy. I don't give a damn. Like, obviously, I don't actually hate him, but
Yeah, I
it's
feel
not
you.
good for the league.
But this is all I'll say, and I know I've been putting our business a little bit out there, but we could have very well in an alternate world, we could have overlapped with Tatum in high school. That's how young this man is. Like this man is, yes, I understand in basketball years he is entering his prime years, which is that's kind of like my whole point. Like he entered the league at a very young age and is kind of now just like clicking and figuring it out and really getting it done on the on the playoff level. So I don't know. I don't hate him. When I see all the, I guess like the when he's copied the iconic moments, the anything is possible, the everyone
Worse.
wants to know what we would have done if we didn't win, like the we
Oh
did
my God.
all of that, man. All of that is corny. I don't want to negate that. But at the end of the day, I'm just saying this is a man who clearly is just showing off his inner child, man. And it's corny, yes, but again, not enough for me to hate him. I don't know. I'm also not that, I'm a Knicks fan. I have no reason to be defending Tatum. Um, I have no reason to like him, which I don't really care for him is my thing. I'm honestly very indifferent towards him. I just think the hate is funny, like I won't lie, but I just want to come clean with that. But that's that's neither here nor there, but cool. Cool, cool, cool. So we agree Celtics advance. Okay, we still have two matchups to get to. Pacers, Bucks. Who do you have taking that?
This one, this one's interesting, honestly, because like I think we talked about this relatively recently, how this is like a nice budding rivalry in the NBA, and I think at this point, the fact that they're going to face each other again, we might as well just call it a rivalry because I'm sure this series is going to get kind of spicy. But I'm going Bucks for this one. I like the Pacers a lot. I'm not going to lie. I do like the ascension of Tyrese Halliburton, something I never would have expected, I guess, before last year. But it's really been impressive to see his game develop and his team develop in general. But personally, out of a lot of these superstars, my personal favorite is Giannis. Even though he's not on my team, I really like Giannis. And I really like Giannis's game. And I think earlier in his career, well, obviously way earlier, he hadn't filled out and become the muscle monster that he is now. But like once he started to develop and become a beast in the paint, especially and in transition, teams were still finding ways to phase that part of his game out in the playoffs, and then eventually he just kept developing and developing, and he figured that out. Obviously, won the chip. And I think Giannis is really just the picture of like anything is possible, like or whatever you want to say. Like he really has developed. You could say something similar about Jimmy Butler, but I think Giannis on an even higher level has really just shown that you can continue to develop your game every year. And the fact that he's made his game viable in the playoffs as well, I think it's going to be hard to stop him. And I think he's starting to click at the right time as well, too. Even though people start to forget about him, I think people have fatigue with like MVPs and that kind of thing, which is why Shea's probably going to win it. But I think Giannis still has had an amazing year. I think he's going to take that into the playoffs, and not to mention like the rest of the Bucks roster as well. So I'm gonna go with the Bucks on this one. Probably in. I don't think it's gonna be easy. I'd probably say 6 or 7. I'm because I think this is gonna be like a big rivalry type series. I'm gonna go 7. I wanted to say 6, but I think the rivalry can make it 7. I think also because the Pacers are the higher seed, so I'm gonna go 7 on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I also have the Bucks taking this. It's hard to say that, considering that Dame Lillard's playoffs are kind of up in the air right now. There was a report that came out today that the team is optimistic about him potentially being available during these playoffs. So, as a Knicks fan, I will say I'm happy we kind of avoided that big question mark. I fear for the Pacers. It's going to be a little bit difficult to prepare for a team where you don't really know whether or not they'll be at full strength. So I'm gonna roll with the Bucks, like I said, and I also believe in Giannis, man. I think he is the most potentially could be the most likable superstar in the NBA. It's just I think he's
True.
been hindered by the small market. I think he's been hindered by teams that have underperformed. He's also been affected by a trade that didn't we have now seen is not really, I guess you could say, resulted in the result that the front office expected. I think giving up Drew Holiday was a big mistake on their end, and we saw them get rid of Middleton. So we've completely seen his team. It's not the same team that he won the chip with, but I think you have Giannis. He has the willpower, like you said, to really push and make an effort to advance. You said 7. I'm gonna say, man, Bucks and 6. Bucks and 6
Okay, I can see that. I can see that.
for sure. And finally, man, this is a long segment, long segment, but all right, to close it out, my beloved, my amazing, my underperforming New York Knicks facing off against the Detroit Pistons. And let me take this one real quick. I'll go first.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Go ahead.
I have the Knicks winning this. It is a little bit interesting. I think the Pistons have given us trouble this entire season. So I'm not super excited to be facing them, but I do think I prefer them over the 5-seeded Bucks. So I'm not completely mad at that. And this Pistons team actually reminds me of the 2021 New York Knicks that made it into the playoffs as the 4 seed. They were led by Julius Randle. That team had R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Nerlens Noel, Mitchell Robinson. I'm trying to think of other names, but if you know, you know. It was Obi Toppin's rookie year, I believe. So a completely different team, but it was a very physical team. It was a very physical team that really gave teams a tough time. Teams didn't really prepare to face the Knicks, and so they kind of got hit with that surprise. So the Pistons all around have had a great season. I think they're coming into their own. They're forming an identity as a team, and they found themselves in the first round. They're not in they're not in the play-in. They're not out of the playoffs. They're literally the 6th seed. So I'm happy to see them there. But the Knicks, man, it's been a frustrating season. I won't lie, and we've exceeded 50 wins. So on paper, you would think the fans would be happy, right? But I've seen how we've performed against top teams, and that just has left a very sour taste in my mouth and leaves me very nervous for these playoffs. But I think we have it in us to win this series. I think it'll be I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but I personally don't see the Pistons taking more than 1 game out of this series. So I'm going to say Knicks in 5. I think the games will be close. I don't think by any means there will be blowouts. But, I'm a little nervous because I kind of, if we advance, we have the Celtics in the next round, if all goes according to plan. But I'm going to say Knicks in 5.
Hmm. I thought you'd say that. I thought you'd say it honestly, and I'm not mad at it. But New York Knicks, brand new kicks, shooting bricks, Pistons in 5.
Are you serious?
No, hell no. New York Knicks and 6. I don't have much to add. I think you gave a good breakdown there. Obviously, this is your team. I will say, I just really I always love a really solid little big pairing. I think Brunson and Cat, although maybe not an all-time pairing that you'd compare to any of the great ones, but I think in the modern game, it's one of the better ones. So I like that pairing, and I think it's going to be relatively comfortable. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have a well-rested and a healthy Jalen Brunson. He got the time to recover from his injury, and he's fresh. Obviously, it was not ideal to see him go out, but the Knicks kept that 3 seed, which I actually expected them to going before that injury. I was expecting them to finish off on that 3 seed, so I'm happy to see that they stuck around more or less. Or they stuck around where I expected them to. They didn't give up that seeding, which I think is great. But I'm nervous. I'm nervous about these playoffs, and that'll be a conversation for another time. But as of right now, I will at least try to enjoy this, hopefully, a good series. So we shall see how that goes. But cool. Those are our first round predictions as well as our play-in predictions, and we will make sure to revisit this when the second round rolls around. We will continue to talk about these playoffs as they unfold, so definitely stick around for that. Cool. Man, mouthful. But WrestleMania 41. It is WrestleMania season. I have been so excited for this build-up. It has been a very interesting build-up. I think I've seen many people have different critiques, have their different thoughts, but I will say, man, if I compare this WrestleMania build-up to previous build-ups, this is a solid WrestleMania. It may not be the perfect card, but we have exciting matchups to look forward to. During this segment, we'll be looking into 3 matchups in particular, and we're going to start out with Jey Uso going up against Gunther, and that will be for the World Heavyweight Championship. And that's been a very exciting build-up, but I think a lot of people have still been thrown off by Jey Uso's Royal Rumble win. They've been thrown off by just seeing main event Jey Uso in, I know it's not the main event, but it is a world title match at WrestleMania. I think people have just been thrown off by that. If you ask me, I honestly feel like this would have been the main event of night 1, but considering the reception, potentially that may have led to Triple H moving this a little bit back in the card. I guess you could say a little bit forward in the card. So yeah, man, this has been an interesting build-up. I will say, I'll come clean. I love Jey Uso. I am glad to see how over he's been and how exciting his entrance is. People love him. He's made all the right steps. I think he deserves this. This build-up, though, I haven't been super excited about, and I honestly won't say it's because of Jey Uso. I will say it's because I've just never been fully sold on Gunther. A lot of people hold him in high regard. People always talk about his Intercontinental Championship reign, but I don't know. I just don't find him all that interesting. The gimmick, I get it, but I just don't love it. But I will say, I think, considering how I expect the rest of this night to unfold, I think we're going to need a big kind of happy moment where the fans leave happy. So I'm going to say Jey Uso is actually going to win this match and become World Heavyweight Champion and end Gunther's reign. That's my prediction. I know that's been a mouthful, Dre, but do you have any thoughts on the just WrestleMania period, but also Jey Uso and Gunther. Is this something that you are looking forward to? Do you plan on watching it?
Yeah, I'll come clean and say I haven't kept as up to date with, I guess, wrestling since the switch to Raw. I thought I would a little more, but there's been so much good media out, I should say, that we kind of reference here and there on the show that I've been watching, that's been coming out. So I haven't been tapping it as much. Although I will say, despite that, I am still excited for WrestleMania. Like, I'm not as tapped in on the build up, but for the actual event itself, I do want to be tapped in and tuned in to these matchups. For Jay and Gunther specifically, though, not much to add here, so I won't waste too much of the people's time. I have mentioned Jay a couple times on this podcast, though, and I am excited for his rise. Even if I'm not personally sold on him as a main eventer, I do think, like you said, the entrance is so electric that it's kind of undeniable at this point. I do think you kind of mentioned it, that him being called main event, Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble, all this, to not even get a main event slot when WrestleMania now has 2 nights. I think when it was a one night thing, that's a little more forgivable. But I think, and I'm not even mad at it. Like, obviously the match that is the main event, I'm way more excited for that too. But I think it's kind of like, I don't know, it kind of lets down the whole gimmick if he's not even getting a main event match, and you have 2 opportunities to do so. But you know, them's the break sometimes.
I hear you. I think it's tough. I think, like I said, I feel for Jey Uso. He's worked incredibly hard to get over. He's worked incredibly hard to build up this gimmick that he has, and he's done he's literally done everything the right way. I know I've said that already, but it's just like, man, like, I also will say the reality is he's literally in the company at the same time as CM Punk is exiting his, at the twilight of his career, I guess you can say, at the same time where John Cena is on his farewell tour. And there's just been, there were probably a lot more names that people would have wanted to see in the title picture. And so to see that that's not the case, I believe is a reason for the frustration. That doesn't necessarily align with my view. I also did not want Uso to win that Royal Rumble. I actually wanted Cena to win it. I wanted Cena to win it, thought Punk would win it, and neither of those took place. Actually, I think I thought Punk or Rollins would have won it, and I think fans would have been satisfied with either of those options. But sucks to see. But yeah, I have Jey Uso winning it. So yeah, we'll see how that unfolds. Cool. Now, on to the main event of night 1. We have a triple threat match between Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk. What I will say about this matchup, it is a non-title matchup. However, I would say the prize, as weird as this sounds, will involve Paul Heyman, which is crazy to say. But Paul Heyman has been by Roman Reigns' side, but there's been this whole storyline about him owing CM Punk a favor. So that's like long-term storytelling there, where there's years back, before Punk's initial exit out of the company, there was this moment where Heyman promised him a favor. So now that's been brought up, where Punk is kind of like, Heyman, you still owe me a favor. And Rollins has also inserted himself into this feud because he has had his well-documented differences with CM Punk, which I will say, I'm going to take a moment to focus on that. That has been real life beef. So for those who may not watch, Punk and Rollins were buddies coming into, as Rollins debuted in, as he made his debut in the WWE. And according to Rollins, after Punk walked out of the company, he kind of turned his back on Rollins and the Shield. And I guess according to Rollins, he thinks Punk expected Rollins to maybe not necessarily walk out of the company with him, but Rollins was in a place where he was building up his reputation, building up his spot on the card and in the roster, and to see someone like Punk, who had helped him in his initial years in the WWE, completely badmouth the company that he was, as Rollins will say, carrying on his back. I think that led to the differences that have been well documented. And for those who may think, man, it's wrestling, it's fake, these people have had real interviews with real journalists, and they would explain and they would make it clear if those differences were not real. But from the looks of it, it looks like that beef is honest. But they've been professionals. They've had a great feud on TV. I had the opportunity to actually see them wrestle in a steel cage match when Raw had a taping in Madison Square Garden not too long ago. So it's been a good feud, and now to see that it's become a triple threat and Paul Heyman has now been thrown in the picture, many people are actually speculating that Heyman will turn on Roman and potentially turn on Punk as well, because on paper it looks like, the favor, well, clearly Heyman is going to turn on Reigns and align with Punk. Now, a lot of people are also speculating, what if Heyman actually turns from Roman, turns from Punk, aligns with Rollins, and we get a heel Seth Rollins run with Paul Heyman? So very interesting stuff there. Dre, do you have any thoughts on that? And do you have any predictions on who do you think will win this match?
Yeah, I like I said, I'm not too familiar with the build-up. I think you did a good job there of laying it out. I am a little more familiar with, I guess, parts of the build-up in terms of Punk versus Rollins and the history of Rollins and Reigns. Not so much, I guess, Punk and Reigns specifically. I know there's some stuff with the Shield in the past, but this whole Paul Heyman angle is interesting, and I think anything involving Paul Heyman tends to be gold. I think there's a reason why they pair less than stellar mic workers with Paul Heyman usually, is because he's literally gold on the mic. I think, and to be fair to Reigns, I think Reigns has developed under the tutelage of Paul Heyman to also be a better mic worker than he was when I used to watch. But like, obviously with someone like Brock, for example, like, there's levels. But this one I'm excited for, even without knowing the build-up. Just the names in here, the history in here. I'm guessing we're looking at a Rollins win, only because, even not being so familiar and hearing your breakdown too, but Punk, like we're saying, is on his way out, and I think the satisfying thing would be a Punk win for the fans. I think because everyone just loves Punk, including me. One of my favorites ever. And Reigns, but I think they rarely go with the satisfying ending, unless it's like some like crazy build-up, like obviously Cody. But Reigns is coming off his crazy title run. He doesn't necessarily have to get a big win here. He's had enough wins in recent history. But I think Rollins, even if it might not be the immediately most satisfying win, I think for the future of the company, especially in the next few years, I think Rollins going over here is probably the most beneficial for the company. So I can see that happening.
Absolutely. Rollins has I admire the way he's reinvented himself over the years. Came in as the architect, and now is Seth freaking Rollins. Like, he also has this, like, I guess, kind of this, like, his own version of like Ric Flair / Shawn Michaels, where he comes out in very just like very elegant robes and stuff like that. And his entrance theme has been amazing as well. So I will say, man, in a roster where you have the big names, where you have Roman, where you have Punk, who has that, no pun intended, cult following, you have Cody, to have someone like Rollins, who's just always been there and always reinvented himself, I think he deserves a WrestleMania moment. Obviously, it will be what I predict is that it will be in the form of a heel turn, but I think that just adds layers to the story, and I don't know, I think sets up for just a lot of great potential storytelling down the line. So I think what I'm trying to say really is that this WrestleMania, I believe, will be a little bit of a shifting point in the sense that it will create new stories. I know I've already talked about Jey Uso and Gunther, but the reason why I have Jey winning that match is because, I think maybe we get a Roman Reigns, Jey Uso for the title at SummerSlam, for example. People want to see Roman back in the title picture. We've seen Jey Uso and Roman duke it out for the WWE title. So I think, we have opportunity to create long-term storytelling, and WrestleMania is that place where we can shift and create those, or I guess you could say plant the seeds for those new stories. But cool. Now for the last match that we'll focus on for this segment, what I believe is going to be the money maker, the match that has sold the tickets, the match that has everybody excited, the match that I will certainly make sure I will be, I will be focused, man. Cody Rhodes versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. This is John Cena's final WrestleMania match, and it, with good reason, will be the main event of night 2, which, by the way, again, for those who may not know, the main event of night 2 is the main event. We have 2 nights, Punk is getting his main event, but the real main event is this match. This is what has sold the tickets. This is what has the people excited. This is the storyline that I believe has been executed the best. So, do you have any thoughts, any predictions?
For this one, oh boy, this one's the toughest one, and not necessarily because, like you said, it's pretty obvious where the future of the company is. Like you said, this is his last WrestleMania. We all know it's been established. This is his farewell tour in his last year. But just from an emotional point of view, even being someone who hasn't kept up in the last however many years, I guess it kind of aligns with John Cena himself going part-time. But him being that constant of the years that I was heavily invested in the company, it's crazy to think that John Cena's last WrestleMania is actually here. He's just that constant. It's that's so wild. I can't even wrap my head around it. But for this match itself, I think we could see a John Cena win, and it might not be a clean win, which, is kind of crazy considering it's Cena once again. That kind of goes against everything he's built up. But I think that's part of the story that they're telling. And I can see a John Cena win just so we can get a bit of a title run, before I think it'd be unsatisfying or dissatisfying, whatever the word is, for him to just win late in the year and have it for a month and then he's gone or he loses it. I think give him a couple months with the title, let him run that, and then maybe Cody can win it back at SummerSlam or something like that, or later on in the year. Because I do think you probably need him to actually lose it, put someone over it at the end of the year rather than him just vacating it. But I think for this moment, I think if he was still a face, then I would be more likely to say he'd lose, because that would be, I think it would be too on the nose and too cheesy, even though I wouldn't mind it. I think it would be, for what Triple H is trying to do, a little too much for him to win it as a face. But I think as a heel, now they've opened that door for him to get potentially a dirty win and continue the storyline. Obviously The Rock is involved, all this. I think that could be a more exciting moment where you get the John Cena win that everyone wants. Even though he's the heel, everyone still loves him, but it's not super cheesy and corny. It actually does something for the storytelling of the company beyond him. So I'm gonna go with a Cena win here. Obviously, predicting WWE is funny because it's scripted, but I'm still going with a Cena win here.
Absolutely. I'm with you, man. I think it's only right. And what I will find, and I don't quite right now, I'll give my input. Saw Cena turn heel, right? We saw him turn on Cody, but we also saw an alliance with The Rock. And my one complaint about this buildup is that the Rock alliance has not been addressed. It's been all of it has really been Cena just explaining why he has turned heel, which I get it. It's the elephant in the room. It's something we thought we would never see. I understand why you are addressing it. However, as a fan, as someone who is watching this buildup, I want to know, why do you align with The Rock? Why did you choose to join forces with him? Why do you walk out with him and Travis Scott at the end of the Elimination Chamber? Why? I just have so many questions, and it bothers me that The Rock has been absent from the buildup, and there just hasn't really been. He hasn't been present. And I know there's been reports about he's filming a movie, but I don't really care about that. I'm a fan. I want the story to be complete. What I will say is that The Rock has also trademarked the term team corporate. So this alliance, which appears to have been formed, looks like there will be some kind of advancement in that team corporate storyline that has seemed to have been formed. So I'm excited to see how that plays a role. I wonder if, with heel antics, as you've mentioned, when Cena wins, will it be with some help from The Rock? Will someone who is part of this quote-unquote team corporate that we know nothing about help Cena out in the matchup? Are we gonna get a clear picture of the story that's being told? Is this I'm thinking back to the Evolution storyline where you have Triple H, you have Ric Flair, you have Batista, you have a young Randy Orton. Triple H is kind of building up these two stars. The young stars get their moment, and then they eventually turn away from the boss or the leader, who was Triple H. Like when there was that moment where they turned away from Orton, but then there was also that moment when Batista turned away from Triple H. So I'm wondering, with this Cena alliance, has Cena, brought himself close to The Rock, potentially join this team corporate that, again, we know nothing about, will win this title with the help of team corporate, only to break free at the end of the calendar year and turn face again before he officially hangs it up. That is a very rough draft of what I think is happening. That's like a very rough draft of my prediction. I could be completely wrong. I could be absolutely in the wrong ballpark, and I accept that. But at the moment, this is what I'm wondering. This is actually what I think may happen. But I'm excited. All in all, this is an exciting matchup. There's a lot of possibilities. So who knows? Who knows what will happen? But, I think everyone is excited to see this go down. I will be watching it. Dre, I don't know if you will be, but best believe I will be texting you all about it. And texting anybody on my phone who cares.
I will likely forget unless you text me. So, especially for night one. I think night two I'll probably remember, but night one especially, I think if you hit me up, I'll lock in.
For sure. Let me know if you need that Peacock login.
might have to. We're kidding. We're in GTA.
I'm weak. Cool, man. All right. Do you want to introduce the final segment? This has been a long episode. I did not think this episode would go this long.
I thought these segments might be long. I didn't know how long. But hey man, here's free content. Why not? We got something real quick. We're gonna end the podcast on. We did it last week. We're back at it again. Trying to make this a regular thing. It's guess the athlete. You probably guessed that, but yeah, we each have an athlete. We're gonna give to the other to try to guess in a minute, and we can only ask yes or no questions within that minute to try to narrow down who the athlete is, and at the end we'll give a final guess. I think we're just gonna stick to one each, considering how long this podcast has gone. But do you have someone in mind? You want to go first, or you want to guess first?
I do have someone in mind. So let me actually set up that that timer for you.
Dead air. So I'm just gonna keep yapping. Yeah, fun episode. Guess the athlete. We have to try to switch it up in the future too. Potentially guess the artist, music artist. You know, there's a lot of fun directions we can go with this. Guess the influencer even. Could be interesting to see how you try to track that down. So we're doing athlete for now, but next week we might switch it up. Let us know if you think something else would be more interesting.
Absolutely. Cool.
How's it looking?
Cool. Yeah, I got it. I got the timer.
Right.
I got the info. I need my little cheat sheet just in case.
Yeah,
I don't know. But cool. All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Is it a man?
Yes.
Do they play basketball?
No.
Soccer?
Yes.
Current athlete or former athlete? I mean, are they a current athlete? Sorry.
Yes.
Do they play in Europe?
Yes.
Are they over the age of 30?
Yes.
Do they play in England?
Yes.
Do they play for Manchester City?
No.
Do they play for a Manchester team?
No.
Do they play for a team that wears blue?
Yes.
Ooh, over 30. Have they won the Premier League? That may be a tough question.
No.
They have not won the Premier League, over 30. Have they won the Champions League?
No. That's time.
Okay, that's time. No Prem, no Champions League. For a team that wears blue, that's not City. So that obviously leads me toward Chelsea. But we have quite a young team. So a player to be over 30. Do we even have any players over 30? I can't think of anyone on the top of my head, like a starter anyway. We have a player over 30? I don't know. So maybe it's not Chelsea. I honestly don't think we have a player over 30. We have a very young team.
I will say, okay, I did take a while to answer that Premier League question. Do you want to ask an additional question, or are you good?
Yeah, okay, sure. If you're giving it to me,
I'll give you one more question.
Are they currently? Is their team currently in the top half of the table?
Top half, as in top 10.
Top
correct?
10. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. The top 10. So I think Liverpool first. They were red. Arsenal was red. Forest was pretty much red. Newcastle's black and white. City wears blue. We said not City. Chelsea is the obvious one. Villa wears like maroon. Fulham wears like black and white. Brighton wears blue. It's a lighter blue, but that's up there. Bournemouth wears black and red. So I feel like it has to be Chelsea. Current Chelsea player over 30 though? I don't even know if we have one. This is what's really bugging me. It can't be a Chelsea player. It can't be a Chelsea player. So I'm gonna go with someone on Brighton. I'm gonna go with who's over 30 on Brighton. Probably like a Danny Welbeck. Brighton's pretty young too in general. So I'm gonna guess Danny Welbeck.
Locked in. Final answer?
Final answer.
Dang, man. No, incorrect.
Oh, who was it?
I'm laughing because you literally skipped over it. Well, not skipped over it, but you completely wrote off Aston Villa. They do wear blue.
They were like maroon and I guess blue accents. Blue accents.
They do wear blue though. But
that's, oh my god. The main color is definitely like a claret, bro. Oh
It's
my
blue
god,
though. Like if I said no, they do not wear blue, that would have been incorrect information.
that would have been okay. You don't Aston Villa kit. Home. Well, I guess I'm thinking home kit. You're thinking away kit. Okay, yeah, fair. Or alternate kit. That's fair. That's fair. That yeah. I was only thinking home kits. That is on me.
Yeah. Well, now that we're here,
Who was the player though?
yeah, Emiliano Martinez, man.
Oh, okay.
This
World
was a
Cup
bit
winning
of a
keeper.
curveball. I didn't think you would expect a keeper,
I would
but
not. Yeah,
I did go for what I believe to be one of the most famous keepers in the world.
100%. I think because I stopped at Champions League. If I said to have they won a World Cup,
Yep.
that would have helped me. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was
That's a good one.
expecting
That's a
that.
good
But
one
yeah,
for sure.
Emiliano Martinez. Yeah, legend.
Even though I think it's a bit overrated, but I do agree. He showed up in the biggest moment.
Killer World Cup though.
Yeah, no, 100%. That alone has made him one of the highest value keepers in the world. So, and he showed up at the most possible like clutch moment you can have. He showed up in it to save at like the 118th minute or something against Kolomouani. So, I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. And I did not guess it. So, 0 for 2 these. Last week I got like half a win, but yeah, that one, yeah, I got cooked. Okay.
Word.
Well, I also have a player for you. Well, an athlete for you, I'll say. I won't give away what they play. Yeah, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, you're gonna start in 3, 2, and I'm before I say anything, I'm 99% sure you know who this person is. If you do not know who this person is at the end, I have a backup player just in case. But
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure you know who this is.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
Soccer.
No.
Basketball.
No.
Wrestler.
No.
Does the sport require have a ball?
No.
Dang. Running.
Yes.
Is it okay? Is this player Jamaican?
Yes.
Is he an Olympian?
Yes.
Has he set a world record?
Yes.
Dang,
Actually,
man.
sorry. No. Sorry. I got too carried away. He has not.
He's not set a world record ever.
Well, ask a more specific question.
Okay. Has he won a gold medal? I know that's not.
Yes.
Okay. Is it Usain Bolt?
No.
What? Oh no. No.
It's tough because of your question. I'll say yes, he has set a world record. That should maybe help you, but it's gonna throw you off also maybe.
But is it the 100? Is it 100 meters?
That's his main event. Yes.
Okay. Oh man, I don't think I can name many other runners.
Okay. I didn't know if you'd know. I thought you'd know who this person is, but okay, fair enough. I guess it's Johan Blake. You know who that is?
Let me look him up.
He was like always running alongside Bolt, but Bolt was always better. But he was always like finishing second. But he had set a world record technically in the relay. So I was like, it's not individual, so I thought that might throw you off if I said yes.
Interesting. Dang. Well, I'm glad I didn't get it right, but I'm glad I at least got the
You're on the right track. Yeah, no, you're on the right track.
Once there was no like, you said there was no ball involved, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be in for a long
either like something Olympic related.
Yeah.
But that wasn't fair, so you know how that is. So we'll go with the backup one.
Okay.
We'll restart your timer.
Yeah. I'm ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Male.
Yes.
Basketball.
Yes.
Retired.
No.
Okay. Is he over the age of 30?
Yes.
Eastern Conference.
No.
This is in the West, over 30. Did he play for LA?
No.
Is he a
Well,
perennial all-star?
no,
Has he won a championship?
no,
Um, has he been teammates, or is he a point guard?
no.
Shooting guard.
Mm, yes,
Shooting guard slash small forward.
yes,
Over the age of 30, shooting guard. Is he originally from the U.S.?
yes.
Went to college.
That is
Okay, that's my last question.
that is fine. I kind of hesitated on some of your questions, so yes, he did go to college.
Went to college in the U.S. Shooting guard slash small forward in the Western Conference over the age of 30. Oh man, that's tough. Never won a ring though.
No.
Dang, and that's so tough. That's so tough. Not a perennial all-star, so he's got to be a role player. Let's see. Over the age of 30.
Some of these questions, when you find out who it is, you're gonna laugh. Unless you guess him, you still might guess him.
I'm thinking. I'm not locking anything yet. Is it not? Yeah.
Yeah, go through your thought process.
The thing is, Jimmy Butler is he is a perennial all-star though. Okay. Let's go with. I'm not gonna lie. I should have asked some racial questions. I'm not gonna...
You should have. That would have probably helped.
Dang. Okay. So I'm actually gonna go out on a limb and say, this is so tough. Let's say, is it Zach LaVine?
Yes.
Oh, no way. No
That's
way.
a snipe. That's a snipe.
That's so tough. That's why I was like, I should have asked a racial question.
Yeah, I was like, if you did, you would have sniped him because obviously it makes that would be funny.
Yeah.
Oh
Zach
my
LaVine. Okay, cool, man. 2 for 2. I ain't mad at that.
That's funny because I was hoping you'd guess DeRozan.
DeRozan was there. DeRozan would have been my other guess had it not been LaVine.
I guess he's been all-star more often.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, DeRozan he's been 6 times. So that's perennial all-star. There's that funny clip. I don't know if you've seen it, where it's like he's on Jeff Teague's podcast and he's like, I didn't want to be a one-time all-star type of dude. And he didn't know, he didn't do it with the intention to dig at Teague, but obviously it's Jeff Teague and all his friends, so all his friends just start cracking up because that was obviously an indirect jab at Teague, and then DeRozan's like, yo, my bad. It's so funny, but yeah, that helped out a little bit for sure. Cool, man. LaVine.
Yeah, I felt bad when I was saying the questions because you said, is he over 30? And he's literally 30, which makes it tough. He's not under 30, so that's I went with yes because I was assuming you mean 30 and up.
Yeah,
but he also just turned 30. So it's
he turned 30 last month. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was a good narrow down.
Yeah, there were a lot of other questions I could have asked, does he want to dunk contest?
That's obviously the thing. I thought he'd be interesting because obviously he didn't win a ring, but if you did go those rogue routes, it would be very easy to find him. But if you stick to the standard routes, then he kind of blends in with a lot of other players.
Yep, for sure. And he just made it to the Western. He was in the Eastern Conference at the start of the season.
Yeah.
Dang. Cool, man.
Nah, but you sniped, man. 2 for 2.
2 for 2. Yes, sir.
I gotta start cooking with some tougher Now we got warmed up. I'm coming with some
Yeah.
tougher players. I guess it's different because there's only so many teams in the NBA. But once I started going into the deeper bag,
Yeah, no, the soccer. I've hit you with 2 soccer players, and I think those have been. Soccer's just an all around more difficult sport to snipe from. But cool.
Yes, sir. Well, great episode. Once again, this one's run long, so I will try to keep this outro short. But appreciate you guys listening. If you somehow made it this far, we're like nearly 2 hours in. But a lot of stuff to look forward to in the next 2 weeks, especially. So we had to cover it all. Like I say all the time, like last week, like next week, we're keeping it going. Clips coming. We did good housekeeping at the start, so I won't waffle too much. But please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We always appreciate it. And we're like 3 months in at this point. We're loving it and we're keeping it going. So we'll see y'all next week, of course. Appreciate you. See you later.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good one, y'all. Take care.